Welcome to 𝗤𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 China is no longer just a country with a massive number of soldiers. Over the last few decades, the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, has been turning into a modern military that can operate across land, sea, air, cyberspace, and space at the same time. The Fujian aircraft carrier, the 𝗤𝗃𝗀𝗁𝗁 stealth fighter, long-range missiles, new warships, military robots, cyber tools, and space systems all point in the same direction. Beijing is building a force that is more connected, can reach farther, and can pressure an opponent from several sides at once. For years, the PLA was often seen as a huge land force that still lagged behind in technology. That old picture does not really work anymore. China is no longer just trying to copy the United States and its allies. It is building its own combat system for modern war, especially around the Indo-Pacific, the South China Sea, and Taiwan. China is also moving hard into military robots and unmanned systems. In several exercises, the PLA has shown robot dogs for scouting, robots that can carry explosives, small drones, drone swarms, and unmanned ground vehicles for combat support. Reuters has also reported that Chinese procurement documents and patents point towards AI for target recognition, drone coordination, and battlefield decision support. So China is not only chasing anymore, it is confident enough to build and display heavy weapons that can change the military math in the Indo-Pacific. Its navy is already one of the largest in the world by ship count, and its air force is filling up with newer aircraft and more mature support systems. In this video, we are going to break down China's key military technologies, look at how far they've really developed, and talk about what they could mean for the South China Sea, Taiwan, the wider Indo-Pacific, and the global balance of power. Let's start on land. China's ground force may not look as dramatic as aircraft carriers or stealth jets, but it sits closest to real war scenarios, especially around Taiwan or border conflicts. The PLA army used to be viewed as a massive force built around numbers. Today, the goal is different. China is trying to make it faster, better organized, and more comfortable using technology in the field. That shift became clearer after the major PLA reforms that began in 2015. The idea is no longer just to send a lot of troops toward one point. Chinese ground units are being shaped to move as one connected system. Field commanders need to see the enemy faster. Units need to move with fewer delays. Heavy weapons need to enter the fight with cleaner coordination. That is not easy when the force you are trying to reshape is this large. At the September 2025 military parade, that modernization was easier to see. China displayed the Type 99B tank and the Type 100, which looked like another step toward more modern land warfare. This is not only about thicker armor or a stronger gun. The bigger issue is whether vehicles like these can read the battlefield, talk to other units, and stay useful in a fight filled with drones and precision missiles. Military robotics is one area getting more attention. China has shown robot dogs in exercises, including for scouting and operations in places that are risky for soldiers. Reuters has also reported that PLA research and procurement documents show serious interest in unmanned vehicles, small drones, and AI-based systems that help troops identify targets. That tells you where China is trying to go. It wants to reduce risk for humans while giving its forces more eyes and faster reaction time. But none of this makes China's army unbeatable. Robot dogs may look impressive in training videos, but real war is much rougher than a clean demo. Batteries aren't out, signals get jammed, sensors misread terrain. Mud, rubble, smoke, and enemy fire can make expensive systems look fragile very quickly. The real threat is not that robots will replace soldiers. The more realistic threat is that robots, unmanned vehicles, and digital command systems could help the PLA army react faster before direct contact even starts. At sea, China's modernization is much harder to miss. The PLA Navy, or plan, was once seen mostly as a coastal defense force. That is no longer the case. China wants to operate farther from home because its trade routes are global and military pressure in the Indo-Pacific is growing. The South China Sea and Taiwan remain the most sensitive points, but the way China is building its fleet shows ambitions beyond defending its front yard. The clearest symbol is Fujian, also known as CV-18. The carrier was launched in June 2022 and entered service in November 2025. What makes Fujian important is not just its size, but the way it launches aircraft. Unlike Liaoning and Shandong, which use ski jump ramps, Fujian uses an electromagnetic catapult system that allows aircraft to take off with heavier loads, more fuel, and more weapons. It also makes support aircraft like the 𝗤𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗁 more realistic because a modern carrier cannot rely on fighters alone. But Fujian does not suddenly put China on the same level as the United States. It is a large carrier in the 80,000-ton class, but it still uses conventional power. The harder problem is people and routine. Landing aircraft on a carrier is difficult. Keeping the deck crew in rhythm is difficult. Maintenance, logistics, and air control at sea are difficult. The United States still has the edge because it's been doing this for decades in real operations. China is also opening a new chapter with the Type 076 amphibious assault ship 𝗤𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗁. This is not a normal landing ship. It is designed to carry an electromagnetic launch system and operate unmanned aircraft from the sea. In a Taiwan scenario, a ship like this could give Beijing more options, but amphibious operations are still extremely risky. Defended beaches, anti-ship missiles, sea mines, and bad weather can turn a big ship into an expensive target. Below the surface, the threat is quieter. Yuan-class submarines with air-independent propulsion give China a useful tool for regional waters. Its nuclear submarines may not be as quiet as America's, but the PLN is not trying to build one magic weapon. It's building steady maritime pressure that gets tighter over time. In the air, the old stereotype of China copying Soviet designs no longer really fits. The PLAFR is now building its own ecosystem with stealth fighters, early warning aircraft, aerial tankers, reconnaissance drones, and unmanned combat aircraft. The goal is not just to own impressive airplanes, it's to make the skies around Taiwan and the Western Pacific more expensive for an opponent to enter. The biggest name is still the Chengdu J-20. This stealth fighter has been in service since 2017, and its numbers continue to grow. It's built for range, carries weapons internally, and is designed to approach targets without being easily seen by radar from the front. The J-20 is not a classic close-in dogfighter. Its role makes more sense as a long-range hunter, coming in from outside the enemy's comfort zone and threatening tankers, airborne radar aircraft, or enemy fighters before they can control the fight. The J-20 story did not stop with the first version. China has shown the J-20A and J-20S, including a two-seat version likely meant for more complex missions. The second seat could help manage sensors, precision strikes, or loyal wingman drones. In January 2026, USNI reported Chinese media claims that the J-20S can strike naval targets. If that capability matures, the J-20 would not only defend the sky, it could also add pressure against enemy ships from long range. China is also getting more serious about drones. The 𝗔𝗱𝗹𝗹𝗯 sharp sword gets attention because of its flying wing shape, internal weapons bay, and design for missions too risky for a pilot. In 2025, Chinese media showed the 𝗔𝗱𝗹𝗹 flying in formation with the J-20 and J-16D. China was not being subtle about the signal. Its future air war is not just one pilot in one jet. It is a network of manned aircraft, drones, sensors, and electronic warfare working together. Then there's the bomber layer. The H-6 comes from an old design, but modern versions still matter because they can carry cruise missiles and anti-ship missiles from safer distances. Reuters reported in May 2025 that two H-6 bombers were seen on Woody Island in the South China Sea, a sign that Beijing can bring air power closer to disputed waters. The long-rumored H-20 stealth bomber is still unclear, so for now, China's air power is strong, fast-moving, and increasingly independent, but not complete. Combat experience, engines, drone integration, and long-range operations are still major tests. Then come machines, combat robots, and AI. China wants frontline troops to have extra eyes before humans enter dangerous spaces. If there's a damaged building, a narrow hallway, or a suspected trap, a machine can go first. Soldiers still make the decisions, but they don't have to walk in blind. Legged robots are the easiest example to see. In several PLA exercises, small robot dogs have been shown carrying cameras, walking into enclosed spaces, and sending images back to troops behind them. Some versions have also been shown with weapons. That gets attention quickly, but the value should not be exaggerated. The main use is basic: see first, enter first, and reduce risk for the soldiers who follow. In the air, the same idea appears through small drones and swarm systems. The war in Ukraine pushed many countries to rethink the value of cheap drones. Small systems can force an enemy to reveal positions, keep radars active, or give a quick picture before the next strike. China has clearly absorbed that lesson. For the PLA, drones are not just scouts. They're tools that make the other side react before it's fully ready. AI sits behind all of this. It may not look dramatic in training footage, but it can help sort data from cameras, radar, and other sensors before it reaches a commander. But real war doesn't behave like a clean demo screen. Signals disappear, batteries die, sensors make mistakes. So PLA robots should not be treated as replacements for soldiers. They're more likely to become an extra layer in front of human troops. Machines go first, humans still decide. If China can make that system reliable, the tempo around its ground forces could move much faster than opponents are used to. Long-range missiles are less visible than jets or carriers, but they may matter even more. This is the world of the PLA rocket force. Aircraft carriers and fighter jets are easy to film. Missiles are different. They rarely appear except in parades or exercises, but they are exactly the weapons that force the United States to calculate risk every time Taiwan or the Western Pacific comes up. China's logic is straightforward. It knows the United States has a huge navy, military bases across the Pacific, and much deeper combat experience. So Beijing does not need to copy everything one for one. It can build weapons that make it harder for the United States to come close. If a US carrier wants to move near a conflict zone, anti-ship missiles have to be considered. If American aircraft rely on bases like Guam, medium-range missiles can threaten those bases. This is not only about striking first, it is about making the opponent hesitate before moving. The names that come up most often are DF-21D and DF-26. The DF-21D is often described as a missile built to threaten aircraft carriers, while the DF-26 has a longer range and is often linked to Guam. Labels like carrier killer or Guam killer work well in headlines, but they should not be swallowed whole. Hitting a large ship that keeps moving at sea is not as simple as pressing a button. China still needs satellites, radar, drones, reconnaissance aircraft, and reliable communications to track the target. That is the real point. Chinese missiles do not stand alone. They are part of a growing network. Then there are hypersonic systems, especially the DF-17. The word hypersonic often sounds like science fiction, even though many ballistic missiles are already extremely fast. What makes systems like this harder to handle is that the glide vehicle can maneuver after re-entering the atmosphere. For defenders, the problem is not only speed, it is uncertainty. If the weapon can change direction late in flight, reaction time gets shorter. A newer concern is the DF-27, often linked to longer range and the ability to strike targets from very far away. Again, the important part is not only the range number, it is what that range does to the opponent's movement. If ships, bases, and logistics routes can be threatened from thousands of miles away, military operations no longer feel safe just because they are far from China's coast. Behind all of this is the nuclear issue. For a long time, China had a much smaller nuclear arsenal than the United States and Russia. Now that number is rising. Recent Pentagon reports have said China is expanding missile silos and increasing its warhead stockpile. Beijing still says its nuclear policy is defensive, including a no first use principle. But from Washington's point of view, the buildup still changes the atmosphere. Nuclear planning used to focus mostly on Washington and Moscow. Now, Beijing is moving closer to that same table. So when we talk about China's missiles, the point is not that China can automatically win a war. That would be reading it too neatly. The more accurate point is that China is making the area around Taiwan and the Western Pacific much harder to enter. Ships still matter, jets still matter, drones matter more every year, but long-range missiles make every move more expensive. In modern war, sometimes the strongest weapon is not the one that gets fired, it's the one that makes the other side think twice before moving.